Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. First things first is I finally got a haircut. The summer heat was getting to me, especially as we're approaching July here. Talking about July, we're into the July trading week where it's going to be shortened. So we could possibly see a reduction in trading volume, but nonetheless, futures are opening up quite well right now. And in the overnight session on Robinhood, we're seeing Palantir that's immediately, buying the dip and reversing right here, popping up over 4%, 4 to 5% as we speak. Also, we got some big events happening tomorrow for the Robinhood crypto event we'll be talking about. Let's talk about important things for this week that's happening on our radar. Like I said, people are going to be preparing for the 4th of July to light off those fireworks and hopefully not injure their hands. So if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and I hope you guys are all having a good time this summer. Let's pop it up on the screen here. What you see here is Palantir. Remember, on Friday, at the end of the trading session, we had that large red candle, and everybody's like, what's happening here? Palantir drops down to about 130 after we've seen it testing these highs of 150. In terms of a bullish perspective, it really does want that 150. We've seen it testing twice with some resistance there, and we see that 130, this drop here, basically going from 137 down to 130 right at market close. Everybody kind of freaked out, saying, "Oh my God, what's happening? What's the news?" Because hey, Palantir, everybody's expecting. They're not expecting drops like this. Just what we've seen with this momentum over the past few years. It was the Russell rebalancing. A lot of you guys probably know that by now, but if you don't, this was just retreating from the Russell rebalancing, trying to sell off some shares, not being too overweight in Palantir specifically, and that's all it was. And I think now that, kind of everybody brushed that off, what you're seeing over here in the overnight hours, it's already back up to 136, up about $5, so up about 4 to 5%. So 136 back here, Palantir is probably going to reclaim kind of this short consolidation and support area right here about this 137, and any type of bullish catalyst, I think, is likely going to be pushing it back up here to be testing these 150s. As soon as you get that breakout above 150s, that's the question. Depending on the macro environment, that's the question of, okay, you're getting into that price discovery, that FOMO. How long is this, momentum going to go on this swing here past the 150? Keep that on the radar, depending on how things are going to play out, especially this week. Looking at the next stock here, let's talk about Robinhood. Now, Robinhood is opening up quite well in the overnight hours here. You see at 84.50. One big thing that we've seen with Robinhood in terms of its trading action is a lot of the dips have been been bought back up. Huge retail stock here. I think institutions are starting to get a hold of this now. So now we're starting to see a lot of momentum coming in to this stock specifically. But if we come a little bit closer right here, you see a lot of support here at the 70s. And that's what I really like, is that near these all-time highs here, and especially with Robinhood here at the 85, a lot of consolidation and support here at the mid-70s is important. This is after we had the anticipation of the S&P 500, inclusion. That didn't happen, and the stock dropped a little bit, but then just kind of hung out here and was buying the dip. Now you've seen it test 85 at these all-time highs twice, pulling back, kind of cooling off a little bit here at 83, but it's going to basically be right at those zones tomorrow. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a huge event tomorrow for Robinhood. That is the To Catch a Token event. That's going to be happening at 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. They've been talking about this, gearing up some very exciting announcements from Robinhood Crypto. Now, the big question is, what are they going to be introducing to the platform? One of the biggest predictors, I don't know if this is going to be included in the event, but is on the radar for Robinhood, is the tokenization of U.S. securities, of assets. This would allow people from around the world to get a piece of U.S. securities without being in the U.S., making it much easier via tokenization, putting them on the blockchain. If Robinhood's going to be the first to do that, to offer it in terms of a product, think about the revenue and let your imagination run from there. In terms of other things that people are anticipating, possibly staking. I've seen things like bringing a launch pad to Robinhood. We don't know. There's going to be tons of speculation, but gearing up for some big things. Nonetheless, this catalyst and this momentum could be pushing Robinhood to test the 85 all-time high, and possibly if there's a breakout, beyond that, then it's like, okay, where's the run? I think a lot of people want to see Robinhood at 100 in terms of a bullish perspective, and they say, hey, why isn't it $100 yet? That's what a lot of questions are. And so if you look at that and look at the downward potential, you do have a good amount of support here at the 70s to rely on. So at the 70s, at 77, you do have some support right there. And especially here at the 71, 72, some strong support right there. On top of the futures that are opening up right now, like I said, things are looking quite decent. US 30 right here, you can see up 0.3%. US 500 up 0.05%, slightly right there. In terms of Robinhood, also too, I'm seeing news across on X here, getting into the mortgage game for the gold members. Now, if they can break into this industry and be disruptive in the mortgage industry, which is a very, very traditional industry, I think we can all agree, it would be absolute gigantic for them. Imagine how much money they could be collecting on interest rates from mortgages. And people are desperate here. This is for a more simplified mortgage experience, and I would agree from the leading rates right here. And I've seen that they're offering up to 75 basis points in terms of better rates compared to the industrial standards for refinances and even on purchase right here, and making more of a simplistic type of user interface. Robinhood is very good at user interface and that type of execution. So if they can properly disrupt this whole industry, that is where I think Robinhood has a lot of bullish catalysts behind it. But that's my 2 cents on it. Of course, take that with a grain of salt. I do have a bullish perspective on Robinhood. Looking at SPY, up about $2. Like I said, as we go into the new trading week, the shortened trading week, and what stock futures are sitting at right now, notching higher. Now, in terms of, we have the global trade negotiations. We've seen Trump, that's kind of talked in the administration about the whole, kind of resuming of the reciprocal tariffs happening, July, I think it was July 9th off the top of my head. He basically said, I could delay him more. I think he's going to push him out personally more. I don't think these tariffs are just going to come back full force, especially as what he's seen the market's been doing, even though he says he doesn't look at the market. I think he looks at the market. Even though what he's seen with the market's been doing, the reaction, the reversal that we've been seeing is a lot of optimism into this current market. The market's liking it. But, of course, we'll see what happens. We never know what he's going to say that can really flip the momentum. I mean, trading in 2025 and just trying to understand what the heck is going on in 2025 has been a whirlwind in itself. One of the big things in terms of a political standpoint is now Trump is keeping on this, the eye right here on the passing of the big, beautiful bill. If it's passed by the Senate here, this passage basically will go to a key procedural vote. It's going to go to the House then, where it says some GOP lawmakers have balked at revisions in the latest version of the bill. Nonetheless, the big beautiful bill is moving itself through the process and it's getting some attention, and it could be arriving at Trump's desk before we know it. Personally, I think the market does want this bill to pass. That's kind of what I think the market is trying to hopefully price in, or is relying on that in terms of its optimism. We did see a little bit of a reversal, but the dip was bought back, remember, on Friday's session after he said that he was going to be terminating all discussions on trade with Canada. So this is where the market can all of a sudden, if it's looking good, can all of a sudden just slump the other way. We see a lot of puts being bought and selling off just from some reaction right here. Like I said, you never know what's coming out on True Social. That can cause large swings in the market, so please be careful out there. But these bearish narratives here, the geopolitical conflicts that we saw, the tariffs, soft economic data, blah, 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 we see price action that's continuing to push this market higher, and it's continuing to be better. And so that's the big question is, what to expect in the markets this week. Markets are going to be closing early on Thursday, and of course, you're going to be off for the 4th. So we could be expecting less trading action. There could be more sideways trading, possibly some redness depending on macroeconomic data. And that big piece of macroeconomic data is going to be the jobs report right here. That's going to be watching for any type of signs of labor market weakening. This Thursday scheduled release of the June jobs numbers, they come as the labor market has remained really resilient despite concerns of hiring slowdown. So the economy has been pretty resilient. That's what we've been seeing. Federal Reserves right here, pointing to strong job growth as a reason to hold interest rates at current levels. We know the administration really wants them to cut rates. Lots of pressure on there. So we'll just see how this plays out in terms of the jobs report, and we'll kind of see what's going to be the trading action. However, though, people could be wrapping it up for vacation and kind of taking a little break from the markets. Nothing wrong with that in terms of just taking a mental break, because it can be crazy, as we all know. Talking about chip stocks, we'll talk about here semiconductors, NVIDIA up here at $1 basically 60 almost, 159, up $1.24. Now, NVIDIA's been on an incredible run along with the semiconductor stocks. AMD's been on a really good run, looking at some of the other big things. So we'll see if that rally continues into this week, and we'll just take it day by day. Let me know what you think about all this information we just talked about. What's your opinion down below? Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.